know, for most elementary students, learning how to add, subtract, multiply, divide isn't going to make their top 10 list of fun things to do. So how do you get your kids pumped up? How do you get them excited to learn math? Our next guest, MW Penn, is an award-winning children's book author, and she says the key is connecting mathematical concepts to other subjects and experiences. Welcome, Marianne. How are you?
Hi. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. So now, from what I understand, you were a math major, and then somehow you ended up doing these wonderful children's books. How did you make that transition from being, that's left brain, right brain type of stuff. How did you do that?
Yeah. Well, I was a math major, and I began my career designing software. Software, large databases for AT&T, the University of Florida, Food and Drug Administration, and that didn't compute with raising a family. So I had to give up that and segued into writing software manuals. You could do it from home, and it was fun, but I got a reputation as a technical writer. And was asked to write some articles in architectural stone, of all things. Fell in love with it. It's beautiful. And actually published over 50 articles in architectural stone. Decided I wanted to go back to math and wanted to go back into the classroom and started taking math education courses, which I had not really had a lot of. And you know, it was later in life, and it was a lot of work. And my husband said, "Why are you doing that? You're a writer." Right. It never occurred to me that I had really segued into writing. But I thought I would try to make math fun for children by writing about what I love, doing two things that I love, writing and doing math.
Now, you also mentioned that often we associate mathematics with computation alone, like addition and subtraction, but it's a lot more than that. So what the heck is math? How do you define mathematics?
Well, math is number, pattern, order, symmetry, data analysis, which is very important for citizens of a democracy. I mean, when you think about it. Set theory. There are so many fascinating things we can teach children about. Shape. I mean, just geometric shapes in a plane.
It's so neat because it's like you're taking something that, you know, is usually termed geeky, and now you're making it fun for kids. What about the age groups that your books are appealing to? Who are you really marketing to?
Well, most of my books are for K through 3, but I do write up into 4th, 5th grade. I visit classrooms, and I've spent a lot of time with 5th graders and 6th graders too. You know what's amazing is when you get in front of the kids and you watch how they just love to hear these stories, and they can once you feel it in your heart and you can get excited about it. Tell us about? I was looking through some of the notes. Your first book was Sydney the Silly. Tell me about that. Sydney the Silly, who only eats 6. It's a book about actually comparison and number comparison. When children begin to learn about number, they learn about it through comparison of things. You have 5, I have 8, I have more than you. But they have to learn to number before they can do that. And without numbering, they still can tell you which of us has more. So Sydney is a study of comparison. He's a little king who is a bit of a, you know, what would you call him? A malcontent, yes. And he'll only eat 6. Children do this sometimes. They'll only eat red, or they'll only eat yellow things. They won't eat anything that's blue. So he'll only eat 6, and he has a chef named Brawley from Brix's, who's a lovely young chef, but he only makes 6s, because if you give Sydney 4, he pounds on the table and asks for 2 more. If you give Sydney 8, he hides 2 under his plate, you know, things like that. And so Brawley eventually quits because he's tired of making 6s. And then Sydney not only learns to divide, because if you give Sydney 1, he learns how to cut it into 6 pieces, which satisfies him, satisfies Brawley, and so Sydney learns to compromise. Okay, now tell us about your Adverse series of books and why patterns are so important. Well, Adverse is a series of poems, and they vary. Farmer Yerkel's Circles is one of them, because children have to learn about shapes, and nothing on Farmer Yerkel's farm is oval or square. And Peter Pattern, Can you see it? You know, because, or do you see it? Do you, can you be a pattern guru? Pattern is very important for the iterative functions of algebra, and children should learn to recognize pattern very early, and that's what Peter Pattern is all about. In fact, I've just signed a contract with Capstone Books to write 4 books for them, and one of them is on pattern. Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. Now, what about the book that you did, taking people through the children through 0 to 9? Explain about that. Yes, Filthy Franny and the 4 Fairy Fleas. Children love it. What's it called? Filthy Franny and the 4 Fairy Fleas. That's easy for you to say. Children love alliteration, and of course they love Franny. That's one of the first things they ask me to read when I come into a classroom. Franny doesn't like to take a bath. She likes to play in mud, as children do, and, you know, eat popsicles, and they drip all over her, but she doesn't like to take a bath. So when she asks the fates for a fairy godmother like Cinderella, well, they say, you far too dirty for a fairy godmother, so they send her Freddie, Frida, Frankie, and Flo, the 4 fairy fleas. And they take her on a jolly journey through the integers. Every time I walk into a classroom and ask children what the integers are, they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, let's look at this 10. 10 is not an integer. And in the base 10, we have 10 integers, but the first one is the placeholder, 0. And so Franny goes through all of the lands of the digits and ends up in 0, an empty land for dirty kids. Yeah.
So you're taking all of this mathematical stuff, making it all fun for kids.
It is fun.
You have got to be. Do you still go into the classrooms and read to the kids?
Oh yes, I go into classrooms all of the time and read my work. That's my joy, working with children.
Now,
but I also do. Oh,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask. You have a 5th book coming up?
I do. Actually, I have 5 through 9 coming up now.
Really?
My 5th book coming out is another adverse, and one of the poems in it is symmetry, a very, very important concept of mathematics. But when you explain symmetry, children love to look at symmetry.
Right.
They love to look at mirror symmetry, rotational symmetry. They just love it. But you ask them why it's important, and they say, well, it's just a fun thing to learn. It's not really that important. And so I've come up with a spug. It's a spider insect, and it has 7 legs. And once you start explaining that to a child, 3 legs on one side, 4 legs on another, I've had little ones tell me, you know, that thing's going to walk in circles.
You are fantastic. I mean,
is.
you have got to, if you really want to bring fun back to your kids when it really comes to, mathematics, mathematical equations, patterns, whatever, go to WTNH.com, click on Connecticut Style. Marianne, thank you so much for
thank
joining
you.
us.
It was lovely.
All right, coming up next, Jennifer Spade shows us how to live the green chic life when Connecticut Style returns. Stick around.
Did I talk too much?